This one time I decided to take a solo trip to this small town I'd been eyeing for a while. It had one of those charming old-world vibes, you know. I booked a room at this little hotel that seemed to have good reviews. It was one of those places that had been around forever and had a lot of character. I arrived late in the evening and the place was dimly lit, kind of adding to the whole antique charm, I guess. The lady at the front desk was nice enough, gave me the key to my room, an actual key, not a card, and off I went. The hallway to my room had these old portraits staring down at me, and the floorboards creaked with every step. It was eerie, but I brushed it off as part of the whole historic hotel experience. The room itself was okay, nothing fancy but clean. I crashed pretty early, exhausted from the drive. Sometime in the middle of the night, though, I woke up feeling incredibly cold. I mean, freezing. I figured the heater must have stopped working or something, so I tried to adjust it, but it didn't make any difference. I ended up piling all the blankets on the bed, but couldn't shake off the chill. Trying to go back to sleep was when things got really weird. I kept hearing these noises, like someone whispering right outside my door. Every time I got up to check, though, the hallway was empty. I must have checked like 3 or 4 times. Eventually, I managed to fall back asleep, telling myself it was just the wind or the old building settling. The next morning, I mentioned the heater issue at the front desk, and the lady looked genuinely confused. She said that shouldn't have happened and that she'd look into it. I then casually brought up the noises, half expecting her to laugh it off. Instead, she went pale. She told me that other guests had reported similar experiences, but only in the room I was staying in. Apparently, it used to belong to the original owner of the hotel who had passed away many years ago. Needless to say, I didn't stick around to find out more. I thanked her, grabbed my stuff, and checked out immediately. The whole way home, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was sitting in the back seat, watching me. I know it sounds crazy, and maybe it was all in my head, but I've never been so scared in my life. I don't think I'll be doing any solo trips for a while, that's for sure. This happened during a road trip with a couple of friends. We were driving cross-country, and because we were on a tight budget, we ended up booking this really cheap motel off the highway for one night. It was one of those places that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s, with neon signs flickering and a vibe that screamed horror movie setting. We checked in late, and the guy at the front desk was this old, grumpy dude who seemed annoyed that we were interrupting whatever he was doing in the back room. He gave us our keys, mumbling something about keeping it down and no funny business, which we found odd since we were clearly just tired travelers. Our room was at the far end of the motel, ground floor, with a view of the parking lot and a dense line of trees beyond. It had 2 beds, a musty carpet, and curtains that looked like they'd seen better days. We dropped our bags, decided who got which bed through a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, and then crashed hard. In the middle of the night, I woke up to what sounded like footsteps outside our door. I figured it was just someone checking in late or going to their car, but the footsteps didn't fade away. Instead, they seemed to pace back and forth in front of our door. My heart started to race. I nudged one of my friends awake, whispering, "Do you hear that?" We both sat in silence, listening as the footsteps stopped right outside our door. Then, the doorknob jiggled. Not like someone was trying to break in, but like they were gently testing to see if it was locked. My friend whispered, "Did you make sure the door was locked?" I had, but in that moment, doubt crept in. We didn't move, didn't even breathe loudly. Just stared at the door as the handle jiggled a couple more times before stopping. We waited, expecting something else to happen, but nothing did. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps slowly walked away. Neither of us wanted to look outside to check. We just stayed up, watching some late-night TV show with the volume down low, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was the old guy from the front desk. But why would he do that? The next morning, we checked out as early as we could. The guy at the front desk was different, younger, and seemed way more cheerful. We mentioned the strange occurrence, but he just laughed it off, saying, that's just Earl. He's a bit of a night owl, likes to make sure everything's secure at night. Probably didn't realize your room was taken. We left it at that, not really buying the explanation, but eager to get back on the road. The rest of the trip was uneventful, but we made sure to book slightly better accommodations from then on. And to this day, whenever we plan another trip, we always joke, make sure it's not an Earl-approved motel, though none of us found it funny that night. A few years back, I was traveling solo for a photography project, exploring various urban landscapes and abandoned buildings. I had a thing for capturing places forgotten by time, and this project was my passion. One evening, I found myself in a small, rundown town, the kind that feels like it's hanging on by a thread. There was this old hotel right in the center of town that caught my eye. It looked like it had stories to tell, and I was all about documenting those stories. I checked in, and the place was just as I expected, faded glory with a touch of neglect. The woman at the front desk was friendly in a weary sort of way, and handed me the key to my room, a heavy, actual key, not a card, which added to the place's vintage charm. My room was on the 3rd floor, overlooking the main street. The decor was a throwback to the 50s, and for a moment I was more excited about the shoot than worried about the vibes the place was giving off. I unpacked my camera gear, planning to explore the building a bit before heading out into the town. I made my way down a narrow hallway with peeling wallpaper, snapping photos. The place was eerily quiet, with only the sound of my footsteps and the occasional creak of the floorboards. I found a staircase leading to the basement and decided to see what was down there. That's when I heard voices. At first, I thought maybe other guests or staff were down there, but something in my gut told me that wasn't it. I turned off my phone light and crept closer, listening. The voices were harsh, whispered, talking about money and something about the package. My heart was racing. This didn't sound like any normal conversation. It sounded like something out of a crime movie. I realized then that I might have stumbled into something dangerous, something criminal. Panic set in, and I slowly backed away, praying the old stairs wouldn't betray my presence with a creak. I made it back to my room, locked the door, and sat there trying to calm my racing heart. The next morning, I checked out as early as possible. The woman at the desk asked how my stay was, and I just mumbled something about it being fine. Once I was a safe distance away, I contacted the local authorities, anonymously, telling them what I'd heard. I never found out what happened after that. The rest of my trip was overshadowed by the incident, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. To this day, I wonder what was really going on in that hotel basement. This happened to me about a year ago when I was traveling for work. I had to stay at this pretty standard hotel. Not anything fancy, but not a dump either. It was just one of those places you'd forget about the moment you checked out. I checked in late in the evening, absolutely wiped from the day. The lady at the front desk gave me my key card, and I trudged up to my room on the 4th floor. The moment I opened the door, I was hit by this weird, musty smell, like wet carpet mixed with old books. Not great, but I was too tired to complain. I figured I'd just crash and deal with it in the morning. I did a quick check of the room. Standard procedure for me. Everything seemed in order except for the bathroom light flickering, which I chalked up to bad wiring. I crashed pretty hard and fast. Around 2 a.m., I woke up feeling super hot. The room was boiling, and I realized the AC had stopped working. Groaning, I got up to check it, fiddling with the controls, but no luck. That's when I heard it, this weird scratching noise coming from the wall behind the AC unit. It was rhythmic, like something was deliberately scratching at the wall. I froze, listening, and just when I thought I was imagining things, it stopped. I tried to go back to sleep, telling myself it was probably just pipes or something, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. It was so intense. I ended up turning on all the lights and watching TV just to drown out the feeling. Morning couldn't come fast enough. I complained to the front desk about the AC, but didn't mention the scratching. Didn't want to sound crazy. They apologized, said they'd look into it, and offered me breakfast vouchers. Whatever. I just wanted to get through my workday. That evening, when I got back to my room, the AC was working again, but the room still had that musty smell. And now I noticed that the bathroom light was not just flickering. It was sort of pulsating. I tried to ignore it, went to bed early, but made sure to leave a lamp on this time. Again, around the same time, I woke up. The room was cold, way too cold. The AC was blasting on high, and then the scratching started again, but louder, more frantic. It sounded like it was coming from multiple places. I was freaked out, heart pounding. I called the front desk, my voice shaking, telling them something was in my room. The lady tried to calm me down, said it was probably just the building settling, but agreed to send someone up. While I waited, I packed my bags. I was not staying there another minute. The maintenance guy came, a tired-looking dude who clearly thought I was just another paranoid guest. He checked the room, even behind the AC, but found nothing. He suggested maybe mice in the walls, but the hotel had never had any complaints before. I didn't care. I checked out that night, drove half an hour to another hotel, and crashed there. No more scratching, no weird smells, just blessed silence. I tried to do some research on the hotel afterwards, thinking maybe it had a shady past or something. Didn't find much, just standard reviews. Maybe it was just a one-off thing. I travel a lot for work, but I've never experienced anything like that since. Makes me wonder what was really going on in that room. It was during a business trip, and I had booked a room in a well-reviewed hotel downtown, close to where my meetings were scheduled. It seemed like a steal, good location, great price, and the pictures online showed a modern, stylish interior. When I arrived, the lobby was as impressive as the photos suggested, buzzing with people. After a smooth check-in process, I headed to my room on one of the higher floors. The room itself was spacious and well-appointed, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. It felt like I'd scored the jackpot, and after a long day of travel, I was eager to crash. But my sense of ease was short-lived. Later that night, after returning from dinner, I found my room door slightly ajar. I was sure I had closed it, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. Cautiously, I pushed the door open and flicked on the light, half expecting to find someone inside. But the room was empty, just as I had left it, save for the door. Trying to shake off the unease, I double-checked the lock and even wedged a chair under the doorknob for good measure. I told myself it was just a mistake. Maybe housekeeping hadn't secured the door properly after a routine check. I managed to fall asleep, but it was a restless night filled with strange, half-formed dreams. The next day passed without incident, and I returned to my room in the evening feeling more relaxed, attributing my previous night's anxiety to the stress of travel and upcoming meetings. However, that sense of security evaporated the moment I stepped out of the elevator to find 2 police officers and a group of hotel staff clustered near my room. My heart sank. Something had happened. Something bad. As I approached, one of the officers stopped me, asking my name and if I was staying in the room in question. After confirming my identity, they explained the situation. The hotel had received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity in one of its rooms. Mine. They had found hidden cameras in the smoke detectors, not just in my room, but in several others on the same floor. It appeared to be part of a larger, more sinister operation involving illegal surveillance and potentially other criminal activities. The hotel management was in crisis mode, apologizing profusely and assuring me they had no knowledge of this operation. I was in shock. The feeling of being watched, which I had brushed off as paranoia the night before, was validated in the worst possible way. The police took my statement, and the hotel offered to move me to another room, but I declined. There was no way I could stay there another night. I ended up booking a room in another hotel, further away, but with solid security measures that they were happy to detail for me. The rest of my trip was overshadowed by the incident. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, double-checking locks, and covering up any potential hidden camera spots in my new room. Thank you for watching. If you found these stories gripping, don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling content. For another hair-raising tale, check out our suggested video. And if you're hungry for more eerie encounters, dive into our playlist featuring similar chilling narratives.